The wind carried dust and sunlight together across the desert that morning, bending the mesquite branches and stirring the faint smell of rain that never quite arrived. Matthew Keller pushed the brim of his hat lower against the glare as he guided his tired mare over the last ridge before camp. He'd been riding since dawn, trying to reach the canyon before nightfall, but the heat had drained both him and the horse quicker than expected. He wasn't a drifter by choice. Fate, or bad timing, had pushed him out of New Mexico with little more than a bedroll, a saddlebag of dry rations, and a promise he wasn't sure he'd ever keep. So when he spotted the narrow stream that cut through the sandy rock below, it felt like a blessing. "Easy, girl," he murmured, patting the mare's neck as they descended. The stream was shallow, barely a foot deep and only a few yards wide, but it was water. The trees thickened along its edge, offering shade. He dismounted slowly, his knees crackling in protest, and led the mare to drink while he knelt to splash cold water on his face. Only when the tension in his shoulders eased did he hear the faint, uneven rustling among the reeds. Not the wind, movement. He stood still, not reaching for his holster but letting his fingers hover near it. Coyotes, maybe. Or a javelina rooting for food. Then a small face peeked through the reeds. A girl, young, maybe 9 or 10, her dark hair matted with dust and sweat. She swayed slightly, as if just standing upright took effort. She wasn't armed. And she looked terrified. Matthew lifted both hands, palms open. "Easy now. I'm not gonna hurt you." Her lips moved, but the words came out too soft to hear. She stumbled forward one step, and collapsed. He was at her side before he fully registered the movement. Gently turning her over, he checked for injuries. No blood. But her skin was hot, too hot. Fever, dehydration, exhaustion. He fetched his canteen and tipped a little water against her lips. She drank weakly, choking once, then more steadily. "You're all right. Just take it slow." He glanced around, scanning for others. A camp. Tracks. Anyone who might be looking for her. There were none. "Where's your family?" he asked softly. Her eyes fluttered open, dark and unfocused. She whispered a word in Apache, too quick, too faint for him to understand, and then another that sounded like mother. He tried again in English. "Did you get separated?" She blinked, trying to focus on him. Finally she managed a few rasped words. "Horse, ran. Mother, said hide." He nodded grimly. Could have been raiders or some drunk miners passing through. Could have been anything. And a child alone in this heat, she'd never make it through the day. "Well," he sighed, "you're coming with me until we find your folks." He lifted her carefully, she weighed almost nothing, and carried her to a patch of shade. His mare snorted nervously when he approached with the girl, but calmed when he whispered a few soothing words. He set the child down, mixed a little crushed jerky into a bit of water to soften it, and held out the improvised soup. She hesitated at first, then ate in small bites. "That's it," he said, relieved. "Name's Matthew. You don't have to talk. Just rest." Her eyes drifted shut. The sun was slipping low by the time she opened them again. Matthew had set up a small fire with dry brush, boiled water from the stream, and stayed close enough to watch for any movement around them. The girl sat up slowly. "My name, Nasha." He nodded. "Good to meet you, Nasha." She studied him with an expression too serious for her age. "You helped me." "Anyone would've." She shook her head. "Not anyone." He didn't argue. Life on the frontier had taught him enough to know she was right. She glanced at the mare, then at the trees behind them, then at the western horizon, as though searching for someone she half expected to appear at any moment. Matthew followed her gaze. "We'll find your mother tomorrow. I'll help you look." Nasha nodded once, but her shoulders tightened. "What is it?" he asked. "My mother, she will be angry." "Angry? Why? You were just doing what she told you, hiding." "No, not that." Nasha looked down at the blanket he'd wrapped her in. "Angry because I let you help me." That puzzled him. "I don't understand." She picked up a stick and drew a small symbol in the dirt, 2 lines crossing, then a circle around them. "My mother, she has old ways. She says whoever feeds a child in need becomes part of the child's obligation. And the parent must return the kindness. It is a binding." Matthew smiled gently. "Well, I'm not looking to bind anyone. I just didn't want you dying out here." Nasha hesitated. "My mother does not think in small things. She will say you belong to our family now." "That's not necessary. She will say it anyway." Matthew wasn't sure what to make of that, but he let the subject drop. Traditions were traditions. Maybe it was more symbolic than literal. Regardless, they needed to find her mother. Night settled over them, the stars sharpening against the indigo sky. Nasha slept curled beside the fire, her breathing steadier. Matthew kept watch, listening for distant hooves or voices. But the only sounds were the coyotes calling from far-off hills and the low rustle of wind through the cottonwoods. Dawn grew pale over the horizon when he finally spotted movement across the ridge, 3 figures, approaching slowly and deliberately. Apache. The leader was a woman, tall and broad-shouldered, wrapped in a dark blanket striped in red and black. Her hair was braided down her back, bound with silver beads. Her eyes, when they locked onto Matthew's, were sharp as obsidian. Matthew rose calmly, hands visible at his sides. Nasha rushed to her mother with a relieved cry, and the woman knelt to embrace her, murmuring something in their language. Then she stood and faced Matthew. "You gave her water," she said in accented but clear English. "Yes, ma'am. You fed her." "I did. She would have died without you." "I reckon that's true," he said quietly. The woman studied him for a long moment, the kind of silence that weighed more than words. Then she said, "I am Tala. And now you belong to me." Matthew stiffened. "Ma'am, She lifted a hand, not threateningly, but firmly. "You misunderstand. In our way, this is not ownership. It is responsibility. You have done something no stranger had reason to do. You cared for my child. So now you are tied to us. We must repay what you have given." He exhaled slowly. "There's no debt. Truly." Tala's expression softened only slightly. "Without obligation, kindness dies. That is why our people keep the old rules. You gave life. Now we give protection, safety, a place to rest, food, whatever you need. I don't want to trouble your community." "It is already done," she said simply. "And refusing a bond once made dishonors the giver." He hesitated. Pushing back would cause offense he didn't want. And he didn't sense any threat, just a fierce, unbending sense of duty. Finally he nodded. "All right, I accept your hospitality." Tala inclined her head. "Then come. You ride with us." She turned and walked toward her horse. Nasha beamed at him, relief shining in her face. The 2 other warriors remained stern but not hostile, watching his movements carefully. Matthew packed his gear, mounted his mare, and followed them along a narrow trail leading deeper into the canyon. The Apache settlement lay hidden among tall stone walls, half-carved caves and half-timber lodges blending seamlessly with the landscape. Smoke curled upward from cooking fires, and children ran barefoot across the packed earth. The scent of mesquite and roasted corn drifted through the air. Tala led him to a shaded area near one of the larger lodges. "You stay here," she said. "Food will come. Water is there," she gestured to a clay jar. "When the sun lowers, I will speak with you again." Matthew nodded. The 2 warriors unsaddled his mare and led her to a corral, giving her fresh water and some dried grass. He appreciated the gesture. The settlement was calm, not suspicious of him but curious. A few people paused to look his way, some children whispering behind their hands, a few elders observing him with unreadable expressions. But no hostility. He sat under the shade and drank slowly from the water jug, watching the rhythm of life around him. Women grinding maize. Men shaping arrow shafts. A small group of teenagers practicing a traditional dance. It reminded him, unexpectedly, of the small community he'd grown up in before too much loss had hollowed it out. True to her word, Tala returned as the sun dipped behind the canyon rim. She sat cross-legged across from him, firelight flickering across her features. "You travel alone," she said. "I do. By choice. Not entirely." She waited, patient. Matthew sighed. "Lost most of my family the last few years. Work's been scarce. I move where I'm needed, or where I can. Doesn't always go well." Tala nodded once. "Many wanderers pass these lands. Most do not survive long. I've managed." "You did more than manage. You saved a child who is not yours. That matters." He shifted awkwardly. "I suppose." Tala studied him again, her eyes softening in a way he hadn't seen earlier. "You think I speak of symbols, rituals, traditions. But this bond is not about repayment. It is about acknowledgement. You acted with honor. So now you have ours." He met her gaze. "And what does that mean, exactly?" "It means," she said, "you are safe with us. For as long as you choose to stay, my people will not turn you away. And she paused, choosing her words. I take responsibility for the protection you gave my daughter. I will offer the same to you. Matthew felt a knot form in his chest, something between gratitude and disbelief. I don't know how long I'll stay. I don't want to impose. You impose nothing. Tala rose slowly. You fed my daughter when she had no one else. Now you belong to this place until your path leads you elsewhere. That is all. As she turned to leave, Nasha peeked from behind her mother's blanket and flashed him a shy smile. He lifted a hand in greeting, and she mimicked it before darting off. Matthew leaned back against the lodge's cool wall, staring up at the brightening stars. He had expected nothing more today than to find water and shade. Instead, he'd found a child on the brink of death, a woman with eyes like flint and fire, and a community that now considered him, somehow, one of theirs. He wasn't sure where this path led, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he was drifting. He felt tethered, seen, grounded in something older and steadier than the life he'd been chasing. And as the wind shifted through the canyon, carrying the scent of sage and wood smoke, Matthew allowed himself to close his eyes and rest, truly rest, for the first time in years. It was a beginning he had never expected. And one that, he suspected, would change everything.